Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rin. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we're going to paint this little spread in my watercolor sketchbook. If you saw my last video, I had talked about wanting to use my watercolor sketchbook more instead of always just using my Royal Talon sketchbook. Not that I don't love my Royal Talon sketchbook, I love it a lot, and I've talked a lot on my channel about all the pros and cons I've noticed in it, like for me personally, and also how it works with the media I personally use. But I really have wanted to work more on actual watercolor paper. So today we're going to just be painting this little rain inspired, rain themed spread. It's been raining almost nonstop where I live, so I just wanted to paint some rain themed things in my sketchbook. And I started off with that little duck like puddle. It's not really a pond, but like that little duck pond. And then here I am painting a little rain hat that's meant to be like a frog. I'm not sure if it actually looks like a frog. I hope it does. But that's what it's meant to be. If it doesn't look like it, that's what I was going for. And because this is all more simple art and there's nothing really complex or like difficult to paint on this page, I wanted to add some visual interest by adding lots of pops of color to everything. So even though you can see here I started with that basic green, I added blue and some yellow and some purple to it. Also here on the duck pond, I added purple, and there's two different shades of blue. It doesn't really show up well on the camera, but there is like a teal and then a more traditional blue. And then I also go in later with some pink as well. Just because it is so simple, I wanted to add lots of color to make it everything kind of pop out and still be fun to look at. The duck pond is by far my favorite. I can't remember if I already said that, but I loved painting it. I love how it turned out on the spread. I'm really happy with the little duck pond or duck puddle. I also pretty much strictly used my Vintage Pastels palette again, and then just a little bit of my skin tone palette for the girl that we paint right here. We're starting to paint, and then my Winsor & Newton, just a little bit out of it, and then of course my Daniel Smith watercolor sample page. And later I do use actually some of my special glitter dots. So I guess I used like almost something out of every palette I own, but I could not decide what color I wanted this girl's clothes to be. So I just went ahead and painted her skin and worked on that. And then I will go after this, I believe I go and in that blank square that was next to the rain hat, I ended up cutting out a little piece of watercolor paper and painting clouds on it. I should have done them like a little raining scene, and I don't know why I didn't even think of it, but I really wanted to add some more like 3D elements to this sketchbook. Like, you know, like in kids' books where they'll have like where you can lift the flap and it'll say something under the flap, or there's just like cool ways that you can interact with the book. I'd really like to add some things like that to this sketchbook. I have an idea for one other painting that would have like a 3D element to it. I don't know, I love that element in kids' books, and I just thought it would be fun to do more pieces of art like that in this sketchbook in particular. So that's my goal going forward, to try and like plan out artwork that I can have more 3D elements in. But as I was painting the clouds and trying to decide what colors to do this girl's outfit, all I could decide at this point was that I wanted her pants to be yellow, to be like reminiscent of a yellow raincoat, and I wanted the umbrella to be blue because it was the closest I could get to like an orange and blue contrast. So I started with that, and then I wanted to paint her hair brown, so I mixed a brown from my skin tone palette and then the mauve from the Vintage Pastels palette, like I like to do, just because it keeps the color very cohesive. And then worked on that, and I still was so undecided even at this point what color I wanted her shirt to be. So I also did obviously line everything with watercolor, and at this point I felt like I messed up her jawline, and so I was trying to fix it, and I didn't really fix it, so let's just ignore that. I feel like once you look at the like page overall, it's not as noticeable, but I felt like I was like, oh no, I just like totally messed it up. But and then here working on the underside of the umbrella with this more vibrant blue, I'm really happy I added this mix of blue. There's like 3 different shades of blue on this page, and I'm really happy I used this more vibrant blue in certain spots. It just feel like it really helped make the colors pop out, and it was very eye-catching. So, and then I added some glitter to that cloud, which you can kind of see in this shot a tiny bit, and then also used my Posca pen on it. The glitter, I always want to film painting it, but it just never shows up very well on camera while I'm painting it. You can see it better at the end of the video when I like show everything on the page. It shows up a little better. I also love how these rain boots turned out. I'm super happy with this mix of colors with the purple and the light pink mauve, and then a like not really light shade of purple, but like that purple, and then I used an even deeper purple, and then also a little bit of yellow. All of this I was doing because I still could not decide what color to paint her shirt, and I ended up going with the color pink because it felt like it was the only color I didn't have a ton of in the page so far. Also in my head, those are like the girls' rain boots, so this is why I'm doing like all of the highlights on everything else and doing all these other things, because at this point I still could not decide on what color to do her shirt. It was the last thing I painted. So obviously here, like I said, I decided on pink, and then I still wanted to add some blue and some purple to it, just to keep everything with lots of color. This is the thing I love about working on actual watercolor paper, is that everything can blend together really well. And then while that was drying, before I lined it, I decided to try and erase as much of the pencil lines as I could and start doing some decorating and attaching that little cloud image and adding some text with some stamps. When I was doing the text with the stamps, I thought of like that scene in Winnie the Pooh, if you've seen the Winnie the Pooh movie, where it's like the rain comes down. I don't remember how the song goes, and like the text from the book like rains down. If you've seen the movie, I think you probably know what I'm talking about, but that's like what was in my mind when I was doing those. But this is how it turned out. If you are still watching at the end, as always, thank you so much. It really helps out my channel, and I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the painting. I will see you in the next one. Remember to be kind and stay cozy.